On today's Ask Zach, we're going to talk about my favorite little Peavey practice amp. It's, 100, 200 bucks tops, the Peavey mid-80s Studio Pro 40. All right, guys, welcome again to Ask Zach. Hope you're doing well. Today, of course, couple years ago, I did an episode on the Peavey Special 130, and I really liked it, used it, but it was just a pain in the butt to haul around just because of how heavy it was. It's just a heavy amp. Part of it has to do with the cabinet, the transformer. It's got a heavy speaker in it, and it was just louder than what I needed for most situations, and I would barely turn the volume up, and so I ended up selling it. And the same guy that convinced me to get one in the first place, Mike LoPinto, who plays guitar with Chris Stapleton, I told him about the situation, how I'd sold the Special 130, and he said, what you need to get is the Studio Pro 40. And I was kind of like, I'm kind of done with the Peavey thing. And he said, no, you really need to check one of these out. So I ended up going over to his house, and I played through it, and I was like, wow, it sounds, just as good as the Special 130. It's kind of easier to use, but, then he said, pick it up. And I lifted it up, and it was light. Not as Tone Master light, but I mean, it was a much lighter than the Special 130. So, so we're going to dive in a bit about this amp and just have some fun. All right, first thing, I need to thank my Patreon members and everyone that's done, put money in the tip jar or super thanks I really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic and mean the world to me, and you're what keeps the show going. So thank you. If you want to find out more about Patreon or anything else, there's information in the description. All right. So the Studio Pro 40 was, part of Peavey's lineup in the mid 1980s. It started out just the Studio Pro, then it became the 40, then it became the 50, and then it, kind of went to the 112 and went to different stylings. But this is my favorite era of this amp. And so there's the 40 and the 50 that are the same amp. And then, the earlier amps and the later amps are a little different, but I really like these. Again, I found this one that was, I bought it from Mike LoPinto, my friend, and, bought it for 150 bucks, but, a lot of times they're 150, 200 bucks. And it's just, it's loud enough that you could gig with it. It's loud enough to get you fired. And then it's just really easy to carry around, and it's nice to have a fun, inexpensive amp that, you could take to a biker rally gig or something that you don't want to take a Headstrong amp or a vintage Fender or something like that. Or it's a great backup amp. So, you could have this in your trunk of your car or with you, because it doesn't take up a lot of space. You've got an excellent backup amp that doesn't have tubes, and it doesn't have, all the maintenance issues that the amps that we love have. So it's got a lot of advantages over the Special 130. One, it's not as loud, which I don't need 130, even if it's transistorized watts. I don't need that much volume. Two, again, it's light. Three, it's simpler and easier to use. So it doesn't have the mid shift, which to me, that was kind of it's a nice control, but it's like, I don't have to be able to boost or cut all these different mid-range frequencies. I just need a good mid-range knob. And so it just has straight up treble, middle, and bass. And then it has a good, sounding spring reverb, It'll do the Bakersfield, thing, or it'll do. it'll do your spooky stuff. But yeah, you know, and it's kind of the same thing, you know, the sweet spot in between 2 and 3. The mid-range and the highs, they can get out of control really fast, especially on a transistorized amp. And so as you can see, I have the mid-range turned pretty low. It's actually at like 1.5. And here's what it does if you start turning it up higher. The highs too will get out of control pretty quick. It does have a pull thick, which is kind of interesting. You can see I've got the lows turned up somewhat, about 4.5, and it can get, you know, pretty, you know. One of the great things, again, I mentioned the weight, and it still has, it's the size of a Princeton, but it has a 12-inch speaker, and it's louder than a Princeton. And the 12-inch speaker is not like one of those Black Widows or a Scorpion. It's a straight up, made in Kentucky Eminence speaker, ceramic magnet, and just really good, simple, you know, 40, 50 watt speaker. And it's a great mate, you know, for the amp. It does have a pre and post control, and it has saturation. Now, it doesn't have the channel switching per se, but, you know, you can turn up the saturation knob, and you can, you know, you can get a little dirt on it here. I'm going to turn the post down a little bit. Turn it up a little bit more. And it sounds okay. You know, is that the greatest overdrive sound in the world? Hopefully you'd have you know, something else, but this could do in a pinch. And if you have the foot pedal, which, I mean, you can buy one, when you hit the, you know, of course it's a 2-button foot switch that you can get for these. One of them turns the reverb off and on, and the other one would turn the saturation off and on. So you could kind of have, in a pinch, you'd have your overdrive sound right there. Yeah, these are just, yeah, they're really fun. Now, I'm just going to say right now, would I rather have my Lil King or a vintage Fender amp or something like that? Yes, but there's situations where you don't want to take those. And these things are under $200, and you can find them all the time on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, whatever it is. And yeah, and they're really easy to clean up. I cleaned this thing like crazy. I completely disassembled it, which was really easy. All I needed was a screwdriver. And, you know, took the faceplate, took the electronics out, cleaned it with deoxit. I actually have a big sink that I was able to put the entire cabinet in, and I was able to just wash it off and then use some Tolex cleaner on it. I washed off the grill cloth. You know, took maybe 45 minutes to completely clean, and, you know, spray deoxit in all of the, in all the pots, and just make sure, and also in all the jacks and everything, make sure everything was working right. And yeah, it's just, you know, one of those little amps that, you know, really will do a lot. And when you're talking about the difference between this and like a Princeton or, you know, a nice tube amp, what you're talking about as far as the difference to me is like there's a transient quality, there's a really fast attack thing with a transistorized amp. It's like it's responding so fast. It has a really low, or maybe it's a high dampening factor. And so, you know, the speaker kind of becomes active and comes to rest really quick. And so I find that I kind of have to maybe roll the tone control back some on the guitar, or, of course here, roll the highs down a fair amount. And you just kind of have to get right with it to a degree, but it's still a very good and very usable sound, and, something where you could, do a gig and be happy. And, yeah. And I have a number of friends here in town that have these, and they've done videos with them without telling people, and people think it's other amps, and guys that run sessions with them and stuff. So this is really a cool little amp that I would get on your Craigslist, your Facebook Marketplace, and wherever, and look around and find one of these and pick them up, because they, usually, unless they've been abused, they just need a little bit of, tender loving care, as it were. And then they're fun and great little amps that will, and they're easy to carry up and down the stairs. Yeah. Unlike the Special 130 that I thought was like I was carrying a tank around. All right. So there you have it. The mid-80s Hartley Peavey, made in Mississippi with a Kentucky Eminence speaker, Studio Pro 40. Get you one.